Oh, there he is. He's in here.
To the source. The source. Source. Hey, get the source.
Good morning. Let me just make sure we are live here. We are. All right, we're bringing Kyle Hunter on the screen now. Good morning. Hope everyone's having a good Saturday. Hope you all had a better Friday than I did. I had a great Thanksgiving. Went 4-0 in the NFL. Followed it up. I think I went 2-4 in the college football yesterday. Was not my day. ECU, man. What? I got ECU a +1.5. Closed at 3.5. I was feeling like the man. Nope. They could not move the ball. So, yeah, a little disappointed with yesterday. Hopefully we bounce back. If you don't know who Kyle Hunter is, we watch the Bet US show every single week here in the office. And Kyle, we'll wait later until there's more people in, and you can tell everyone where to find your stuff. But as a quick intro, that's on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that show?
Tuesdays and Wednesdays for
Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So what they do is they do a part 1 and a part 2 where they go through the first half of the slate, and then they do another stream where they go through the second half. So, yeah, we watch it every week. But like I said, later when there's more people in, you can tell, give everyone the rundown.
I can't.
What's up?
I can't hear him. Do you want me to leave?
Yeah, leave and come back. Leave and come back. All right. So let's get started. AJ put his name as Little Kim today. All right. So, yeah, we got a lot of games to get to. Don't have a ton of bets open today, but we'll go through it. There's some I'm considering. I'll hear these guys' thoughts. This first one is Tennessee Vandy, and I'll start. I think if I was to place a bet on this game, I would lay the 10.5 with Tennessee. Vanderbilt offensively just seems to be trending in the wrong direction. Last 4 games, 36% success rate, under 4.8 yards per play. I know they've played some tough defenses in there. Texas, Auburn, South Carolina is all in there. But honestly, if we're talking defensive front 7, I might take Tennessee before any of those teams. Tennessee, as far as stopping the run, is about as good as it gets. I definitely believe in this Tennessee defense. So I really don't have a ton of faith in Vanderbilt doing much offensively. Also, Tennessee has every reason to be fully motivated for this game. There's no reason to let up. But, I mean, it is senior day, so maybe Pavia comes out and plays some hero ball. I guess. The reason I didn't place this is Vanderbilt has played in so many of these super slow-paced games that I could see Tennessee completely dominating this game, like dominating, and then we're in the fourth quarter and the score's like 24-9, and Vanderbilt's a touchdown away from backdoor covering. So the slow pace and some of the lower-scoring games we've seen from Vanderbilt scared me off, but it would be Tennessee or nothing for me here. Kyle?
Yeah, Pavia has been too good as an underdog for me to take Tennessee laying the doubles. If you go back to last year, Pavia at New Mexico State and Vandy, now the last couple of years, 13-3 against the spread as an underdog. So he's been covering in these roles. He's just kind of that dog of a guy. He just keeps battling all the way to the end. He doesn't seem like he should be that good, but he really is. He makes things happen. I kind of think this would be a lower scoring game. So probably under is my lean in this game. And also, if I like an under and you're giving me doubles, I'm going to lean Vanderbilt here. I didn't place a bet, but that's what I would take based on, I think Vandy will probably try to reduce the amount of possessions in this game.
Yeah, I considered under as well. I would definitely, on a total, I would definitely lean towards under. Andy, what about you?
I would lean Tennessee. If you look at the numbers, Nico has obviously had a much worse second half of the season. Once they got into SEC play, it was pretty clear the freshman in him came out, if you will. But the one game that he played really well was Mississippi State. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking Mississippi State's defense is awful. Well, in that game, he had 10.1 yards per attempt. The only team that is at the level of bad as Mississippi State is Vanderbilt secondary.
I wouldn't put him at that level of bad.
The numbers are the same, and they're playing pretty much the same schedule. So they're pretty bad, too. Actually, Vanderbilt's schedule was much, much easier because they didn't play. They played Virginia Tech, who's run heavy. And Sam Leavitt was dicing up Mississippi State earlier in the year. So, like, their pass defense actually has faced easier offenses this year than Mississippi State, and they've been just as bad. And Nico tore them up. He also tore Kentucky up. Those are the only 2 SEC games where he played well. Other than that, he played pretty poorly against Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Arkansas. But this Vanderbilt team is more at the level of those other teams. So I think he's going to get a lot done through the air here. The only thing that scares me is, like you guys said, the offense for Vanderbilt. If they're controlling the game, if they're controlling the pace of the game, very tough to see Tennessee doing much because their run game has been pretty much non-existent in SEC play. But I think that they'll get enough done through the air. Plus, they really need this game. They cannot lose this one. They do still have an outside shot to get into the playoff. They're probably the worst of the SEC teams to get in, but I think that this game, they want to end it early and quick. So Tennessee would be mine.
All right, let's move on to the next one. And
just 1 second. So Kyle Hunter, this producer AJ speaking. Could you just mute your mic when you're not speaking real quick, just so I don't have to mute you? Sometimes when I do that, I forget, you start speaking, comments go ape shit on me. It's not a good mix. So if you could just do that, there's a little bit of feedback coming off your mic for some weird reason. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
all right,
Sure.
cool.
I,
Go ahead.
I can't hear Andy either. Do I need to jump out and come back in or something?
Yeah, Andy, when you leave, close out all your internet browsers and then come back in.
We'll have Andy do it.
Yeah, Andy. It's not just you X out. You have to close the internet browser. I don't know why OBS Ninja does that sometimes. But yeah. Oh, you missed. He said something so compelling. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, Illinois Northwestern is up next. If this game was 5 weeks ago, I'd be down to take the +8 here. And that's still the way I'd lean is Northwestern plus the points. The problem is I feel like my faith in this Northwestern defense has just, let's say, dwindled a bit. In the last 5 games, they're allowing 4.76 yards per carry, 48% success rate per rush. If Northwestern can't stop the run, I don't even know what their identity is. That's what I had faith in. I mean, you'll never see me trying to back Jack Lauscher, the Northwestern offense, but when it came on the defensive side of the ball, this was a unit I believed in. Yes, they've played some stronger competition, but I don't know what I think of the Northwestern defense anymore, which is keeping me off this one. But the thing is, on the Illinois side, when we're talking about the Illinois offense, first 5-6 games of the year, this offense was completely reliant on Altmaier in the passing attack. I mean, they couldn't run the ball at all, and Altmaier was, I mean, we saw him go on the road in Nebraska, have a huge game, win outright or forced overtime, and lately, Altmaier can't seem to throw it, and Illinois has a rushing attack all of a sudden. So I just didn't feel comfortable enough with either side. I feel like I don't know who either of these teams are right now. We're in week 14. I don't know who either of these teams are right now. So it would only be Northwestern plus the points because I don't think Illinois' offense has played a complete game for me to lay double digits, but not in a hurry to do this either. So it's Northwestern or pass for me. Can you guys hear each other now? Test.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
Okay.
We're good? All right. So, Andy, are you with me on Northwestern or pass?
No, I'm on Illinois, and this is taken. Honestly, this one's probably my biggest shot in the dark of the day because Northwestern this year overall has seen pretty much 3 passing attacks. Everything they've seen recently, Michigan, Purdue, Iowa, Wisconsin, Maryland, none of those have good passing attacks. They saw Ohio State, saw Washington, they saw Indiana. All of them cooked them. They got cooked through the air by all of them. Now, I know Luke Altmaier hasn't been playing well. Against some pretty good secondaries, Rutgers is decent, although they've had injuries. Michigan State's a good secondary. Minnesota's been fine. They have a decent pass rush. So those are pretty decent pass defenses, not great. But Northwestern's is awful when they play good quarterbacks. So I'm just taking a shot in the dark that Luke Altmaier will be able to throw the ball. I know it's on the road. It's going to be cold weather, but I think he'll have enough run support that it'll open that up. So this is probably my biggest gamble of the day, if you want to call it, but I think Illinois can win this game pretty comfortably. Northwestern, there's nothing to play for here. This is it for Altmaier. He's been doing it forever. So this is his last college game. I mean, they'll have a bowl game, but his last Big Ten game. So I think Altmaier can get it done here.
Kyle Hunter?
You know, I don't want to bet this game. I've looked at this game quite a bit. Would be one of the last ones I'd want to bet, to be honest. Northwestern 114th in tempo, and Illinois is 91st in tempo in the country. Northwestern's offense 130th in yards per play. So I just don't know, where the points are going to come from. But I also don't trust Illinois. I think Illinois is not as good as their record. If you look at yards per play margin so far this year, they're 66th in the country, and yet they've won this many games. I think they've gotten at least a little bit fortunate to be here, a bit of a paper tiger. So neither team is one I want to bet. And I think 44 is just a very low total, but do I trust Northwestern to score points? I got to pass this game.
Yeah, it sounds like Andy's the only one that actually bet that game on Illinois, so maybe he's the most confident. All right, I bet this one. This is actually, I would call it one of my more strong bets I feel stronger about today. And I don't really like the reasoning for it. If you guys remember, my top bet last week, I said it on the show, I was all fired up about it, was West Virginia plus the points at home. It was Garrett Green's last home game, his last game in Morgantown. It was senior day, and I was all in. I was loving the Mountaineers, and it turned out great. There's a happy ending to that story. Now, in my opinion, we get to fade West Virginia coming off the emotional high. We got Texas Tech in the same exact spot. It's senior day. It's Taj Brooks' last game in Lubbock. Now, I did hear some stuff. Was that you, Andy, that was telling me that the West Virginia coach needs to win in order to keep his job? Was that you that was telling me that?
I mean, with the current landscape of all the coaching things, I think that a lot of coaches today need to win their last game or they're going to get fired, because there's no power conference openings besides North Carolina. And if that's the case, then there's going to be some teams over exaggerating, probably firing their coach to try to get the best options this year, because there's just no job openings right now. So I do think Neil Brown probably has to win this game.
All right. Kyle, do you agree Texas Tech? I'm on this one. I got it at 2.5, though. Got it at 2.5.
Again, I don't really like this game too much. There's going to be some that I do like today. The ones at the beginning here, not really the ones that I love to jump on. And, I think in this one, West Virginia's been so inconsistent that it's hard for me to trust them. They did win the big game last week. I think I would probably bet Texas Tech if I were forced to bet it. But again, this would be one where I'd be kind of right at the end of the line as far as whether I'd really want to bet it. I don't trust either team too much. I think West Virginia had their game last week. Can they do it twice in a row? They'd probably have to prove it to me.
Yeah, and something else I like here is if there's one aspect of West Virginia's team that I'm down to fade, it would be the secondary and the pass defense. And this Texas Tech team has been a bit of a mess. If there's one aspect of the Texas Tech team that I put a little bit of faith on, it's Baron Morton making throws in home games in Lubbock. That's especially against bad defenses. That's when I like Baron Morton at home against bad defenses. That's where we'll see the 4 touchdown games. So I do like it. I bet this. Are you with me, Andy?
Yeah, you nailed that. That was my big reasoning here. I mean, you can say that Baron Morton, I know that they haven't had necessarily statistically the best season passing. They're 92nd yards per attempt, but they're 23rd in effective pass. They face some tough defenses. He's much better at home, as we know. This is also it for him, I believe. And the pass defense for West Virginia, these numbers are just laughable. 133rd in yards per attempt, 125th in success rate, 119th in effective pass. I mean, he should be able to do whatever he wants at home, them coming off a big win. So I like Texas Tech. I know a lot of favorites for me so far, but yeah, I think Texas Tech is going to win this one by maybe a touchdown or two.
It looks like you can still get a minus 20, a minus 122.5 out there if you look, by the way, because I got 2.5. Next game, Louisville, Kentucky. Do either of you guys know anything about this Kentucky quarterback? I want to take Kentucky, so I don't like Louisville, and I don't think they should be laying more than a field goal on the road. Plain and simple. But I don't know enough about this new Kentucky quarterback to have an opinion. So either you guys know anything about this kid?
Yeah. He was a 3-star. He played last week against Texas. He was 10 for 18, which you'd think is pretty good. He had over 100 yards, but he threw a pick and got sacked 5 times. So the pressure was there. Now, Texas is a better pass rush than Louisville, but Louisville doesn't have like the worst. So if he's under pressure and he's struggling and making mistakes, that's an issue. But that Jeff Brom, the coach of Louisville, seemed pretty high on him, but I think opposing coaches are always high on the opposing quarterback for some reason. They like to talk them up, make their team look good. But I'll just start in this game. I think Louisville's going to win it comfortably. Tyler Shuck. I know it's on the road. Kentucky has won this game a lot recently. Kentucky's been the far better team. They've kind of been the big brother to Louisville. So I think they're going to win it comfortably. I also have the under in there because I don't see how Kentucky is going to be able to put up points in this game. I know it's a freshman quarterback, so there's a lot of unknowns, but pretty much consistently this offense has been really, really bad this year. I don't think throwing in a 3-star who struggled with pressure is going to help that. So I have Louisville and the under.
Damn it. I wanted to be on the other side, man. I wanted to take a Kentucky. Kyle Hunter, you got anything in this one?
Not going to bet this one myself. I mean, I can't take Kentucky when Louisville has so much better margins on a down-to-down basis. Louisville is They played a similar strength of schedule. Louisville's 14th in yards per play margin, and Kentucky's 97th in the country. So the question mark is, what's the quarterback compared to Vandegrift? Vandegrift was really bad. So, I try not to bash on college guys too much, but he was not up to expectations when he came here, definitely. So is this guy going to be better? I don't think he'll be worse, but he hasn't really been in this situation before. It's kind of a bit of an unknown. Lean Louisville here.
You're going to hurt Andy's feelings. He's a Georgia guy. It was supporting Vandegrift entering the season. All right, next game. And Andy, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to read your text message that you sent to me at 2 a.m. last night. And I think the people need to hear this. So Andy said, I've never said this before because it's lame and stupid, but a team is free tomorrow. 3 words, big game Hank. So Andy's on Wake Forest. I was actually leaning the other way. So I'm guessing you got Wake at +4?
Yeah, +3.5. But
you had 3, okay.
What, as long as it's a field goal, I love it. I think big game Hank, last game, I know I don't want to harp into that too much. This dude's been playing college football since I was in diapers. This guy has been playing college football forever. This is it for him. Wake Forest, they've been sneaky competitive in some games this year. The North Carolina game, they backdoor covered as well. Like they've been sneaky competitive, much better than I thought they were going to be. I think that comes down to coaching. They have a good coach. Duke has fallen off a little bit late in the season. The defense is still good, but on the road, Wake Forest, Hank's last game, I think he's going to get a lot done through the air. Also, I don't think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. I think a lot of it's just going to be Wake Forest. This is going to be like a 21-17 game to me. So I have the under. I don't know how the total is at 53.5. I have no idea. I think it's way too many points. So I have the under and Wake Forest. I know those kind of conflict each other because a lot of people would think Wake Forest is going to win in like a shootout if that's the case. No, I think there's going to be a slow, boring game that Hank wins in the end. Wake Forest.
I feel almost the complete opposite about this game. I think Wake Forest defense is terrible, and that's why the total is at 53.5 because they can't stop anybody. Cal just came in here and put up 46 points at 500 yards. I don't even like Cal. So I would lean towards Duke. I didn't bet it, though, and you actually text me and saying that. So you're way more confident in this than I am. Duke's offense is obviously not very consistent. It's not very good. But Wake, like I said, that defense, I don't know how you have faith in it. So, I mean, I'll root for you, but I lean the other way. Duke. Kyle?
I love that Andy gives his points and then Kyle just says, I completely disagree with that. But a lot of shows, like, people won't say that. But I love that Kyle just comes in. Like, I think complete opposite. I lean Duke in this one. I think Wake Forest has not done enough for me to trust their defense to really stop anybody. And I think the total is what it is just because of the tempo in the game. Wake Forest is 13th in tempo in the country. Duke is 26th. Duke does have a good defense. I think definitely the best unit on the field here is the Duke defense. Say what you will about Manny Diaz, but he definitely knows defense. Duke is 15th in yards per play allowed so far this year, 3rd in defensive havoc rate, really aggressive play calling on defense, 99 tackles for a loss, which is 2nd in the country. Duke is 57th in yards per play margin. Wake is 107th. I mean, Andy has more faith in Hank than I do here, so I'm gonna go Duke here.
Kyle was probably like, did he just call him Big Game Hank?
Right.
That's what we've always called him on this show, is Big Game Hank. So Andy's really trusting Big Game Hank here in his final home game as a college football player. So all right, next up is Kansas Baylor. This is a bet I think I want to add last minute. This is a cool game. I would lean Kansas, and I think I might throw a few dollars on Kansas last minute here. The reasoning for it, all right, so would you guys agree that these are the 2 best teams in the Big 12 right now? I think these are the 2 hottest teams in the Big 12. They obviously they fell a bit too far early in the season to be considered in any sort of postseason, but Kansas versus Baylor, both these teams red hot in their last 5 games. Here's why I'm buying Kansas a little more than Baylor. If you look at their strength of schedule over the last 5, both of these offenses look great. Kansas did it against Kansas State, Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, 4 of the stronger defenses in the conference. Meanwhile, Baylor did it against Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU. Well, actually, TCU's defense has made me a believer recently. I'm a believer in TCU's defense. There's a sentence I never thought I'd say. And West Virginia. So Both these teams have been red hot. Kansas has been doing it against stronger defenses and still scoring 35, 37 points a game. So I'm a little more of a believer in what Kansas is doing right now. How is Kansas going to make stops on the road in Baylor against this offense? I don't know, but you know what? They made some plays against Colorado last week. So I had Kansas as my top bet against BYU a few weeks back. I'm a believer in this Kansas team. Last game of the year, Brent. Can't hold anything back now. I'm sticking with the Jayhawks here. Kyle Hunter, you with me?
I do kind of like Kansas here in this one. The line's flipped a little bit, but when you're around 0, it's not too big of a deal for it to move. Kansas has come back this far, guys. It's going to be really disappointing if they don't get to a bowl game after winning 3 straight. Like, they really need to win this game. I think Leipold's a really good coach, so I'm trusting that they show up in a game like this. They're first in the Big 12 in yards per play on offense. Jalen Daniels is really heated up. So, yeah, I agree here on Kansas. I think Baylor's pretty good too, and I think the total is high for a good reason. I think it's a little too high for me to take the over. That's certainly my lean, but, yeah, I'm going to agree on Kansas here.
I actually see a total graphic in there. I'm guessing that's yours, Andy.
Yeah, I think I made one. I would that was on Friday I made that graphic. I would still lean that way, but I kind of want to take Kansas. What he just said, that's for the PICKEM. What he just said was very perfect to me. Kansas has done all this to get back to the spot where they can go to a bowl. It would be great. It would feel very Kansas-y to just fall flat on their face here in this game. But I'm going to lean that they're not going to do that. I think the graphic we were talking about was the pick game, but I would lean the Kansas way. They're just so high. You said it. You could argue this is like the best team in the Big 12. And unfortunately, they just started so poorly that they obviously had no shot. But yeah, I don't love it. That he also mentioned it perfectly, Kyle Hunter. You mentioned it perfectly. The over would be a great play here, but the number, which when I saw it, I hadn't looked at the number, but I was like, oh, this would be a good over game. Then I saw the number. I was like, oh, hell no, because there is every shot that this is the last game. Both of these teams just no show on offense. We'll see, but I'm going to lean Kansas, but I definitely don't love it because it would feel very, very Jayhawk to just fall.
You want to talk about this? They said this game would seems like it might be Kansas-y. That's what I'm thinking about. It might be a Billy Napier type of day later. We'll get to that one when we get to the 7 p.m. I think it's a Billy Napier vintage day. Pitt Boston College. I bet this one. I don't really get the line or the total. I bet this one early in the week thinking it was going to drop down to a flat 3. It didn't. I got Pitt +4. You could still get Pitt +4. I don't really understand why the total's so high, 49.5. It has me a little concerned because if the number's way off from where you think it should be, you're probably wrong. It's usually you're the one making the mistake. So in my opinion, I would consider this one at like 2.5, let alone giving me a +4. I know Pitt has been terrible, but I mean, Pitt's offense, I should say. I know Pitt's offense has been terrible, but I kind of like the way the defense matches up here. Boston College is still an offense that wants to run the ball. Pitt's defensive line this year, 6th in line yards, 8th in stuff rate, 1st in power success rate, 7th in yards per carry allowed. This is not a defense that gets run on. So there's a lot of pressure on Grayson James to make throws here. I don't really like the matchup for Boston College offensively at all. Now, on the other side, look, you want to say you don't believe in Nate Yarnell, who I believe is confirmed the starter, right? Nate Yarnell?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to say you don't have faith in the Pitt offense, you don't have faith in Nate Yarnell. Fine. But let's not forget that before last week, Boston College played North Carolina in the pouring rain. Before last week, there have been 4 consecutive games where this Boston College secondary looked terrible. So let's not forget that we had regarded Boston College as a terrible pass defense before last week when they played a game in the pouring rain. Pittsburgh is an offense that likes to throw the ball. Yes, they've been bad, but they're playing a defense that, in my opinion, isn't good at defending the pass. I think Pitt's going to win this game. I sprinkled the money line, but like I said, the line's a little, it's off from where I thought it was be. I would imagine this is more of a quote-unquote public dog. But yeah, I'm on Pitt here. I think they win. Kyle, what do you think?
Don't want to bet aside here too much. I kind of lean the under. I won't bet this one personally with my money, but just so people know where I lean, I would lean the under. Thinking Pitt's defense has really impressed me of late, especially against the run, like you said, Kyle. First in the conference against the run. Do I trust Grayson James to do a lot? Not really. And on offense, Pitt hasn't been very efficient, and Boston College plays really slowly. So is Pitt going to get this game into a shootout? Probably not with the way their offense is right now. So I'll lean under.
Andy?
I have the under. Should be in there. This Pitt team, 6 of the last 7 games, their under has hit. The last 3, more specifically, I had all 3 of those. It felt like they were just never readjusting to what the Pitt offense became when Eli Holstein got hurt and got banged up, and their unders kind of just hit from there. Now, this is the lowest the under has been. The lowest previous was 50.5, which is obviously just a point. That was against Clemson. That was against a much better offense. Now you're getting Nate Yarnell. It was always a question of who was playing quarterback. I had a feeling we were getting Yarnell in this one. Like, he looked good against Clemson, but a lot of that was in, like, they were down by a pretty decent margin when he really started to come back. Then they nearly won the game. But then last week against Louisville, he looked unplayable. He looked terrible. I'm not saying he's going to do the same, but on the road in Boston College, it's probably going to be cold out there. It's not going to be the best environment. And then on the other side, you have a backup quarterback who needs his rush support. I don't think he'll have any against Pitt. So I have a hard time believing either of these teams are getting this thing over 50.
Yeah, I agree with you guys on the under, too. I went back and forth between Pitt and the under. Ended up landing on Pitt, but I wouldn't be mad at an under either. So it seems like we're all kind of in agreement here as far as how we expect the game to go. Let's move on. Maryland, Penn State. This is a straight pass for me, but I'm pretty sure Kyle has a bet in this one because I think I remember hearing you talk about this game earlier in the week.
Yeah, I like Penn State in the first half here. I laid the 13.5 in the first half. The thinking here is Penn State usually runs up the score. James Franklin, he knows the number as well as anybody. But at the end of the game, if they're up decent here, it might make some sense to rest some people because all they have to do is win this game. They don't really have to goof around and cover a spread or possibly get somebody hurt here because they want to get ready for the playoffs. So I think in this one, Penn State comes out ready to go at the beginning. I also think Loxley's teams have this long history of starting well and then finishing the season poorly. If you look at Loxley, he's just against the spread. He's done well in the first 3 or 4 games, non-conference. He gets in the conference. He can't cover spreads. I also looked up his first half against the spread record, 19-34-1 against the spread in the first half in Big Ten games. So he's not been covering spreads in the first half. I think Penn State can throw the ball here. They're second in pass play success rate in the country. Maryland is 101st in pass play success rate allowed. So I think Penn State takes care of business here. I do lean them to cover the full game spread too, but I'm going to lay the 13.5 in the first half here.
Yeah, the first sentence you said is pretty much spot on how I feel. I mean, he knows the number. And it's basically, I don't like betting on decision making, but if James Franklin wants to cover this game, he will. So it's just like, does he want to? Does he care to? I like that bet, that Penn State first half. Andy, did you have anything in this one? I think you said you didn't like this game.
I'd lean Penn State. I've been saying it at nauseum pretty much for the second half of the season. Maryland's O-line, like a turnstile, they're awful. And now they have a backup quarterback back there who's supposed to be mobile, but last week against a good pass rusher, a decent Iowa pass rusher, nowhere near Penn State's level, he was under pressure. He got sacked twice. He had 9 carries for 6 yards. So that was a disaster, and that's a mobile quarterback. That's how bad Maryland's O-line is. So I would lean Penn State. I don't really see how Maryland puts up many points in this game. Not any, but many. I don't know if they'll get shut out like Oklahoma State yesterday, but I think it could be damn near close. So I think I would lean Penn State as well.
All right, so on to the next one. I believe the Iron Bowl is up next, correct?
Yeah.
Auburn, Alabama. All right, Auburn, Alabama. I went back and forth on this one plenty of times. Auburn doesn't have a consistent run game that I trust. We have seen it come out in a big way in a couple games, but for the most part, they've been mostly relying on Peyton Thorne. I don't know. I honestly don't know what I think about this game. I trust the Auburn defensive front. That's one angle of this game I'm pretty confident about, that they could defend the run, and I can hang my hat on that. But at the same time, Alabama having the element of Jalen Milroe also, it kind of, when you have a quarterback that could do that, it's kind of a different sort of rushing attack, and you'll see great run defenses struggle. So there's not one, and I looked at this game for a while. There wasn't one definitive angle that I trusted in any direction. So I truly when you're looking at a game and you're like for 10 minutes you're like I like the over, and then the next 10 minutes you're like actually I like the under. Then the next 10 minutes I'm like I think Auburn's the play, and then at the end I was like I got to lay with Alabama. So I have literally nothing. I want to bet the game. Do you guys have anything? I don't know what happens in this one.
I mean, for me, I would lean under, if anything, here. I think Auburn probably runs the football a lot. Peyton Thorne, we can't trust him throwing the football. I mean, he against really bad teams, occasionally they'll throw the football well, but I don't trust him here against Alabama to throw the ball well. I think Hugh Freeze knows that as well. I think they'll run the ball a lot, play slower. Can their defense do pretty well? I think Auburn's actually probably a little bit better team than most people realize. It's just they've had massive turnover problems. Is that going to happen again here? It wouldn't shock me. They're minus 11 in turnover margin this year. Alabama's plus 11 in turnover margin. So if you just look at yards per play margin, you'd think you should take Auburn. But, I mean, they might turn it over quite a bit again here. I think this game will be a bit lower scoring. I am a little bit concerned about some of the injuries on defense for both teams, but I'm going to lean under 52.5.
Andy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought Alabama was the best look-ahead spot in college football last week, and it was correct. I think now they're about as awoken as they could ever be. I know that they lack something. I don't know what it is that they lack, but they're not like a normal Alabama team from the standpoint of they're blowing out a lot of teams. But I'm going to lean them here. I did not bet this. I want to be very clear about that. I did not bet this because this game is always really weird. Last year, I thought Alabama was going to crush Auburn. The game wound up going to multiple overtimes.
That was a wild game.
And they like the third and goal or fourth and goal or whatever, that comeback. So that's how weird this game can be. Some of these rivalries will be that way. But if it all goes to how I expect, I think Alabama will win by 2 touchdowns. They're about as awoken as any team in college football after last week. They no-showed in Norman, and it was bad. So, it's not a confident pick, but Alabama would be my side.
All right, next game. I was thinking under too. I wouldn't be mad at an under there. A lot of running the ball from Alabama. Miami, Syracuse, all over 99.5 here. No, seriously, how does this game? I know it's 67.5. I still don't know how it stays under that. If you've watched Miami football this year, you know that it makes sense for Miami to put up 40-plus points. But against this Syracuse team, it's going to be even multiplied because Syracuse, all they do is throw the ball, and they run a fast pace. So these two teams, it's like the perfect storm of points where even if because it's not that I think these defenses are terrible, especially the Miami defense. They give up these huge plays, and I feel like I do the same dance every week where I look at the Miami game and I look at their defensive numbers, and I'm like, wait, Miami's defense is good? What am I watching then? Because they give up these huge plays, but then you'll look and their defensive numbers aren't that bad. So it's not that I think the defenses are terrible. It's just in my opinion, there's going to be so many possessions in this game that it's just going to get up and over 67.5. I think you get up over 77.5. This should be, if you like shootouts, I would say put this one on. This should be a wild one. I do think if I was to pick a side, I would lean towards Syracuse plus 11 because I don't have much faith in Miami making. I mean, I think they're going to give the touchdown back as quick as they grab one. So it'd be over for me. Shootout. So are you guys in agreement with that?
Over would be my lean here in this game as well. I mean, it's hard to bet an under in a Miami game. Miami's offense, I have no questions about their offense. They're fantastic. Ward's been great. I think the defense for Miami, like you said, I agree with you, Kyle. You look at success rate, you look at yards per play, you're like, this defense is supposed to be pretty good, but they do give up a lot of big plays. This is a team in Miami that is 126th in explosiveness allowed out of 134 teams in the country. So they give up some of these massive plays. Syracuse hasn't been a huge big play offense. I think they'll probably get some big plays here today. McCord's been pretty good. He has that game occasionally where he has all the turnovers, but if he has that game with the turnovers here, it could lead to an over. I mean, we could have pick sixes in a game like this. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Based on the pace played, and I know Miami's going to score. I think Syracuse can score enough. Weird things happen in this dome. I think Miami should win and win by a decent amount, but we've seen weird things happen here before. Over would be my side.
Andy, 3 overs?
I was just about to say that weird things do happen at Syracuse State. It feels weird vibe around it. Road players probably don't want to go there. I think Syracuse is live here. I think very well could win this game. Not saying Miami's looking ahead because technically I don't think they've even clinched the ACC championship game, but they feel like this is a foregone conclusion that they're going to this game. They have the playoffs set if they win this one. I think they could lose it. Not only is it weird there, I think Kyle McCord has now found his rhythm. Now, I know it was against bad teams, but Miami's not exactly a good defense. So I think him finding his rhythm against bad teams is a good thing for them coming into this one. I know he'll have to probably play back and forth, shoot out with Cam Ward, who's going to have his last gasp at the Heisman, even though I think there's no chance. So I would say that I think if Syracuse wins today, I'm far from surprised. Let's just say that.
Actually, I think you guys were talking about it on the Bet US show, Kyle, that I think it was Parker was talking about if for people who play props, that Cam Ward's probably going to be in the position to stat pad here. Was that you guys that I heard that?
Yeah, I believe it was. I think stat padding here would make sense. And I don't know. I mean, some people say this game doesn't matter that much to Miami as far as winning by margin, but I don't know. I think they don't want to leave anything to guess here. It's just a question of whether they can win by margin. I mean, Miami's won a lot of close games already this year. I don't really trust them to win easily. I do trust that Cam Ward will throw for a lot of yards here, yes.
Yeah, I think we can all get on board with that. Next up, this is probably the ultimate I have no freaking clue game. What was it, 2 weeks ago where SMU laid the egg? That just had me scratching my head. I feel like I don't have a feel for Cal or SMU, so this is a straight pass for me. Either you guys want to talk about Cal SMU?
I'll give you what I've got here on this one. It's not a game I really want to bet, but Justin Wilcox has been really good as an underdog in the past. I mean, it would be a hold your nose as you bet it type game because I don't really trust Cal. But Wilcox is an underdog, guys, of 7 points or more, 23-9 against the spread, with an average ATS margin of plus 7.02 points. So he's not been like squeaking out these covers. They're winning outright in this role many times in the past. I don't think they're going to win outright here, but this is quite a few points. SMU, I don't know. SMU is a good team, but are they a great team? Like you said, they had that showing against Duke where that was one of the ugliest games ever. Just a terrible game in general. Cal, I don't know how they'll do it. Kind of smoke and mirrors. I don't think they're really that good. But I have to lean Cal plus this many points.
Damn. I was leaning the other way, but like I said, this is a straight pass. Andy?
I was also leaning the other way. The issue with the quarterback situation at Cal is that the O-line is really bad, and SMU's had a really good pass rush this year. They've been really solid there. They're at home, so I think that'll help. It'll be comfortable there. And it really stalls out the Cal's offense. The yards per attempt go down. He takes a lot of sacks, Mendoza, so that could be an issue. I really don't like the matchup for him. So I would lean SMU, but again, at 2 touchdowns, that's asking a decent amount for a team that if late in the game they're up by that much, a backdoor cover is very easy because this team's going to the ACC championship game if they win. So that's also part of it. You have to have the human element there.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the next game. And, oh, man, forgive me.
I'm just glad this season's over for Arizona.
Why do I want to bet Arizona again, man? So I actually lean towards, all right, Arizona team total over. That's the way I like here. Just put AJ, when you get the ball up, over 53.5 is what I like here. But I also think Arizona could make this very interesting. The Arizona State defense, the defensive front is something I was singing the praises of earlier in the year, but it's trending in the wrong direction. In the last 5 games, Arizona State, well, this is their numbers against the pass. Their last 5 games, over 48% success rate per drop back. They haven't had much of a pass rush most of the season. They've been struggling against the pass, and now they play an Arizona team who all they do is throw the ball. Fafita's going to have time in the pocket. Weather's supposed to be beautiful here, 78 degrees, no wind. I think Fafita's going to show up for hate week. I know it sounds crazy putting faith in Fafita, and if you guys have been watching this channel, you know that I had Arizona plus 6.5 as a top bet against UCF, and they were down 28 points before I even got the game on my TV. So I have a rough history with Arizona. In fact, me and Andy both have rough histories against Arizona. I feel like that team's crushed both of us this year. I like him here. I think they're going to score some points. He did like he was getting it together there for a couple weeks in weeks 9 and 10. Last 2 weeks, he kind of fell back off the wagon, but it was against Houston and a TCU defense that's somehow really good against the pass. Against this Arizona State defense, and I think he's going to show up. I like Fafita to have a big game throwing the ball. On the other side, the reason I bet the over instead of Arizona, it's tough to make a case for Arizona's defensive front making stops against Scadaboo. You know, it's going to hand the ball off 40 times in this game, and I don't think there's a damn thing Arizona could do to stop it. Also, Sam Levitt's maybe a believer as well, so I went with the over instead of Arizona for the fact that I couldn't find an angle I liked for the Arizona defense here, so over for me. Kyle?
I'm going to go over as well. I don't want to bet a side here. I want to say this, I've been completely wrong about Arizona State. I took season win total under, which was, bozo bet of the year as far as this season. I was on Indiana from the beginning, which looks super smart. I was against Arizona State from the beginning, which looks horrible. Dillingham's done a great job with Arizona State. I didn't think they'd do it this quick. Scadaboo's fantastic. I think the biggest difference for Arizona State is Sam Levitt is better than I thought he was. He has been excellent this year, not making mistakes, taking care of the football. He doesn't have to be amazing, but he's pretty close to it. And Scadaboo's going to get his yards here. I mean, if you look at Arizona State is 9th in rushing play success rate in the country. Arizona's 71st in rushing play success rate allowed. I think Arizona's defense has looked pretty bad here down the stretch. And on the other side, Arizona's offense should be better than they are. I mean, they're one of the most disappointing teams to me the entire season. Will they show up once? I think there's a decent chance they could. McMillan's still great. I still don't think Fafita is really bad, even though he's kind of looked bad here of late. Not a really good coaching look for the Arizona first-year coach here this year. I think over because I think Arizona tries to have that one last stand here against their rival.
Agree, and I agree with what you said in the very beginning too. You mentioned you had Arizona State under wins ticket. I didn't have that, but I did not like the team at all entering the season. In fact, I loved Wyoming +7 in that opener. Loved it, and they got crushed. So yeah, I'm in the same boat. Andy?
Kyle, you said you were wrong about Arizona State. There's nobody who was more wrong about Arizona. I think it's still the reason people talk shit in the comments because they remember what I said about this team. I bet them. I think the first 7 weeks of the year, I think they started 1-6 against the spread. It was they're awful. It was terrible. I'm glad the season's ending again.
So wait, one last ride?
Yeah, one last ride is exactly right. I think this is a great spot for them. Somebody did just say in the comments, Dillingham had a funny quote this week that said they have the same quarterback, same receiver, same guys that just picked us apart last year. It's true. I mean, the same guys are back. This team did pick everything apart of Arizona State. Arizona State all of a sudden was a really good team this year. I don't think anybody expected it. So maybe they revert back to last year, but I just think this game's ending within a touchdown. It's a big rivalry. They hate each other. Arizona State, I believe they still have a shot to go to the Big 12 championship if they win. I think they do go if they win, right? But so it would be beautiful for Arizona to pull that upset. And I think it's a really good ending for Noah Fafita this year because this was a disaster season for them. But if he picks up a little momentum, plus he'll have a clean pocket where he's been perfect this year. He's been really good with a clean pocket, and there is no pass rush for Arizona State. So, yeah, I like Arizona here. One last shot.
One last ride. And it's funny, I'm looking at the screen here, and Andy's got an Arizona graphic. On one side, it says 9-2 against the spread. On the other side, it says 2-9 against the spread. Andy picks Arizona.
When I was doing the graphics this year, I was like, these teams are opposites, and I would have thought completely differently.
Yeah, same. I think we all kind of thought that, though. We were all I think most college football fans were wrong about both these teams. What's next? Arkansas, Missouri. Does anyone have a weather report? Is this a weather game?
I got this. I love the weather.
Yep.
I talk about this on BetUS all too much. I do think the weather matters more than most people think in college football. Some of these guys are like, well, who cares about the weather? The better team's going to win. I think the weather matters a lot. I mean, I've won a lot of totals over the years betting unders in weather games. Now, this one's kind of tricky. I think this one starts at 3:30 Eastern. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's going to be snowing mainly before about 5 p.m. So this one probably stops during the game at some point. You could even argue first half under makes sense here. I think that's probably what my biggest lean would be here in this one. because it says 3 to 5 inches of snow during the day here today. So a decent amount of snow. First of all, I love snow games too. I hope it's snowing during this game. Nothing better than watching football where they're trying to find out where they're at on the yard lines. They can't really even tell what's going on. That's fantastic. I don't love the Arkansas defense, but they've looked a little bit better here of late. Missouri's not been that explosive on offense. I think I'm going to put a little bit of money personally, small bet on first half under. I got to see what the best line is. If anybody in the chat or anybody sees what the line is on first half under, that's what I would take here. I would probably lean toward a full game under, just because I still think that both these teams care about this game. It's kind of a rivalry as well. So under first half is what I'm going to bet, though.
I think from my notes where I was jotting down notes for the show this morning, I have under 54 written down. Now I'm seeing 51 and a half. So that's within the last few hours. So I remember when I looked last night, the weather was like, I didn't even know it was supposed to snow until those words came out of your mouth, by the way. But I looked last night and it said chance of precipitation. I didn't realize it was snow. It was under for me, so I'm in agreement. I kind of wish I betted the 54 now. But yeah, I guess just under for me. You said you didn't like the Arkansas defense. I don't know. That defense front has made me a believer. They've been decent against the run. I kind of like the Arkansas defense. So I don't know. I guess if you could get a 3.5, I would lean towards Arkansas. But I also don't trust the way Taylor Green plays. If it's snowing, I don't know how much of his athleticism he'll be able to use. It's a lot of quick changes of direction, and I don't know. So I guess just under. But I don't have a bet in the game. This will be a cool one, though, if it's snowing. Andy?
So I know how lines work. I get it. But I think the wrong team is favored here. Arkansas is the better football team, purely better football team. Missouri has had 3 opportunities this year to play good football teams that I would say are competitive, good teams. Even Arkansas would probably be the 4th best team they've played this year. In their games against good competition, they've looked terrible. I know you can throw the Alabama game out because that was an outlier. They had to put Drew Pine in out of nowhere, and that was just terrible. But even the game against South Carolina, they didn't look good. Like they lost the game 34-30. It very well could have been a blowout. They just didn't look good in that game. Texas A&M earlier in the year, we know that
was disgusting.
Completely trashed. Yeah, they got completely trashed, and a lot of it again. Quarterbacks that can run on them, that's an issue. Jalen Milroe was able to run on them. I believe that was Weigman in that game, but I think Reed came in late.
I think Reed came in, yeah.
Yeah, and they were able to run on him. Lenore Sellers, what do we know about him? He can run. That's a guy that beat him. I know Taylor Green's not like a typical quarterback. He's more of a scrambler. They don't usually design runs for him, which has been weird this year. But in the snow, they might have to. If it's in weather, they might have to. So if they can't stop running quarterbacks, I think that continues here. I think Arkansas is not only the better team. I think Missouri has been frauds all year pretty much. Anytime they've seen a decent competition, a tight game, they've shriveled up and been unable to win it. So I really like Arkansas here. Plus, this is a more heated rivalry than I knew it was. I knew it was a rivalry. These teams hate each other. They absolutely hate each other. So that thrown in there too.
Wow, that was a compelling speech. I might throw a few dollars on Arkansas moneyline and root for this with you. You got me fired up for that. I think Brady Cook's best fastball clears Arkansas pretty easily, but I get your point. We haven't seen many good fastballs from him this year, so I completely get where you're coming from there. Rutgers, Michigan State. This me and Andy are in New Jersey. We can't bet this, so we usually pass on the Rutgers game. So Kyle, the mic's yours if you have anything for this one.
I'm sorry to let you guys down. I don't have anything strong here in this one. I think Rutgers is probably a little bit better than they looked for a little bit. They were really banged up for a good while. I think Shiano is pretty good at getting his team up for games. One thing I've noticed here is Michigan State's been a lot better in the first half. Even last week, remember the game against Purdue? Michigan State jumps out to a big lead. I don't think they scored in the second half, or maybe they scored just a small amount in the second half, but got out to a big lead against Purdue and had to hold on. I think if you want to bet something here, you maybe take Michigan State in the first half. Jonathan Smith's a good coach. Game plan to start at the beginning of the game. I'm not going to bet this 100%, but just so I can give out some kind of lean, that would be my lean.
Michigan State first half. Andy, did you have anything you wanted to add to this game?
I can't bet the game, but I do technically have a bet. If Michigan State wins, I hit my season team total over. So that was my favorite of the year. So Go
Oh,
Sparty.
you've been talking about that for a month. That's
They're
right.
on 5. I have 5. They need to win the game. So it's a big one.
So, all right.
I
And
don't think the matchup's very good for them, though. It's going to be a little bit of rain, and it's going to be windy, and Aiden Childs loves to chuck the ball down the field. I don't think that benefits them, but rooting for Sparty.
honestly, though, I don't even know if I believe in the Rutgers run game anymore. I know it showed up.
Yeah.
But if you take the last 5 or 6 weeks as a whole, Rutgers hasn't been able to run the ball for the most part. So I don't know what I like about the Rutgers offense at all. And if you're telling me it's possible bad weather, I'm not taking Callie McManus to make throws in that. So I probably would lean Michigan State with you.
Sunny and 75.
Yeah. All right. NC State, North Carolina. Oh, I have a bet in this one. Maybe a little bit, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at this a little bit biased. I'm a CJ Bailey guy. I am a believer. I've become a fan. As you guys know, I loved them in that Georgia Tech game, the primetime game recently. I sprinkled the NC State money line. We fell just short, but I loved them at +9. I'm a fan of CJ Bailey, and I think I'm being objective here. Maybe I'm just a fan, but I love what he's doing, and I love how he used his athleticism a lot last week. I feel like that gives North Carolina even more to try to prepare for defensively. North Carolina's defense has looked pretty solid recently, but they really haven't played an offense that I consider to be dangerous. I mean, Virginia's been trending in the wrong direction for 6 weeks. Florida State, let's laugh out loud at that. Wake Forest, okay. I mean, they could score a little bit. Boston College in the pouring rain. So forgive me if I'm not taking the recent North Carolina defensive numbers too seriously. If you rewind back before that, the UNC defense wasn't looking all that great. CJ Bailey in this new North Carolina State passing attack, this new unit that looking like a elite ACC passing attack, and I love it. If I'm being honest, I'm a little worried about Criswell here. He's been so hot and cold. I mean, we've seen him have absolutely monster games against Florida State, Virginia, James Madison. Didn't really do much in his other games, so he kind of gives us either a Heisman Trophy performance or he doesn't show up at all. NC State's defense, it seems to be coming around a bit against the run, starting to look like an old school NC State defensive front, but against the pass, don't really trust it. So maybe Criswell screws me here. Maybe Criswell shows up and goes off, but I think at +3.5. Oh, it's at 3 now? I got 3.5, but it's cool. As long as it's 3 or higher, I think NC State could win. So I'm on NC State. If you guys don't want to take NC State, I would lean over because I think if NC State doesn't cover, it's by way of Criswell having a big game. That's my personal thoughts. Andy, are you with me?
I am. Somebody did mention it in the comments. I knew it was coming too. That's why I was reading them. Mac Brown got fired, but it isn't like a typical post-coach firing game because like he's coaching. So I don't know how to really take that. Maybe he tries some cool trick plays or whatever if he knows that because he knows whatever. They were also going to a bowl, so it's not exactly the end of their season. But in terms of the actual football, I think NC State can win the game as well. CJ Bailey's been really fun to watch. UNC doesn't exactly have what you would call a good pass defense. I think that they can get a lot done. He's also mobile. He showed a lot this year. I think next year we're going to be really high on NC State. If he stays, we're going to be very high on NC State because of that. So, yeah, I think and also Criswell for UNC. He hasn't gotten the love that CJ Bailey gets, obviously, like we just said. But he's had a decent year as well, but not as good as Bailey. I'm just wanted to mention that because he's been solid as well.
I have a feeling Kyle Hunter's about to say he's on the other side.
No, I like the over here is what I would bet. I think I like that you guys like CJ Bailey because I feel like he's underrated by most people. He stepped in. Remember Grayson McCall was here to start. He wasn't playing very well anyways. Then he got hurt. Bailey came in. He's this young guy, 6'6", has the height to see over the defense. Definitely raw to start with, but he's gotten a lot better throughout the course of the season. He also doesn't have fantastic weapons around him. But the North Carolina defense is 103rd in pass play success rate allowed. I really think they will be able to throw. I think Criswell probably has success here too because NC State's defense has not been very good this year. They're 88th in yards per play allowed this season. The only thing that worries me just a little bit about an over is NC State does play slowly. They're 123rd in tempo. What does North Carolina do with Mac Brown being fired? I don't know. Some people are going to say like they rally for one more win. You could argue it the other way as well. So I don't feel real strongly about that. North Carolina, not very trustworthy. You never know what you're going to get from them. I'll take over.
Yeah, I agree with an over too. I went NC State. I was thinking NC State team total over or over. That's where I was circling here. But I decided to ride with my guy, CJ Bailey. I need a jersey. I'm a straight up fan now. I'm a CJ Bailey fan.
Well, let's make sure he stays first.
Next up, TCU Cincinnati. Ugh.
This is my only pass today. I just want to be clear. I didn't know what to do with this game. I just never talk to me about Cincinnati athletics again. Their basketball team is the exact same way. I see the Cincinnati logo. I'm like, I don't know what to do with this game.
I mean, it does look like a decent spot for first half of the season Sorsby to show up, but I don't know if that guy exists anymore. Sorsby's been so bad, and TCU's defense has made me believe. I kind of have this feeling Cincinnati's going to show up, but I don't really have any logic to back that. So I guess Cincinnati or pass, but I'm not betting. Kyle, you got anything for this one?
Well, I think there's only two ways to look at this game. You look at the stats recently and you say TCU's playing a lot better. Cincinnati looks like garbage. Have to bet TCU. Or you can go the other way and say Cincinnati needs to win this game for a bowl game, motivated, come back home. It's just I'm super concerned about Sorsby. I mean, like you said, is that guy still even in there? I mean, we're going to find out in this game, but I don't want to bet on that guy to show up again based on what I've seen lately. I think that's putting hard-earned money at risk in a big way. At the same time, you know, TCU going to play a cold weather game here in Cincy. Not excited to bet this one in general. I think I would lean TCU, but I don't really want to bet this game.
I can't unsee the Cincinnati-West Virginia game. I took Cincinnati and the over at 55.5. And both of those bets lost because of Sorsby. He ruined both.
I didn't even think of that. TCU playing in 31-degree weather has to be a disaster for them.
31's not that cold, though.
It is for – dude, the players of the Georgia game were complaining about 50 degrees. Down south,
they were complaining. They actually complained.
Huh?
You root for such a soft team, Andy. Did they actually complain?
Soft as hell last night. 8 overtimes. Lovely.
Actually, didn't you have Georgia Tech first half, though?
I did. I hit that. I nailed that.
Nice.
Should have taken first half money line. I don't know what that would have been.
What'd you have, plus 10.5?
Yeah, plus 10.5. They've covered minus 16.5.
All right. Purdue, Indiana. I don't have much to say here. I kind of think the fairy dust has worn off, and like I could see this being close, but I have nothing to say, so I'm not going to waste your guys' time talking about it. Either you guys have anything to share here, Purdue, Indiana?
I'll go quickly. This is an under game. It's going to be rating the whole game 87%, and the total's at what, 56? What we have it at? I don't know what it is. Let me look at an updated total for everybody. It's to be rating the whole game. Not that Purdue really is going to affect the total very much. They might score 3 points, but they're already a terrible offense. I have I'm trying to find it. It's still 56.5. I don't know why the total hasn't changed. It's going to be raining the entire game. It's going to be windy. Actually, it's not going to be too windy, but it's going to be a lot of rain. Under for me.
Okay. Kyle, you have any thoughts on this one?
I mean, I don't know. I can't say too much about this one. It's funny, Kyle, because when you started, I was thinking, I mean, I don't know how much we can say about a game like this. It seems like a tough one to say too much. I love Signetti. I think he's a fantastic coach, one of the best in the country. And if you just had been betting him the last few years, you'd have made a ton of money at this point. That would have been the way to go. I think Indiana wins pretty easily here, but that's a huge number, guys. I mean, I don't love to run and bet numbers like this. I think I would still probably lean Indiana, but I'm not going to bet it.
Yeah, I agree. I was leaning Purdue, but I agree in the sense that I'm not going to bet it. Oklahoma LSU. I got a bet in this one, and maybe I'm too quick to become a believer here. I was loving it from Oklahoma last week. Keep in mind, this Oklahoma team has a new OC now. I mean, it's not new. It was like four games ago, I think. But since Oklahoma made since Oklahoma made the change at offensive coordinator, they played South Carolina, at Missouri, who's played very tough defense at home, at Ole Miss, and then Alabama. And in the Alabama game, we finally saw Oklahoma start to resemble an offense. 260 yards rushing, 5.3 yards per carry. Who was doing a ton of the rushing? Jackson Arnold, the quarterback. And the reason that's significant is this LSU defense has shown us they have no idea how to stop a quarterback that can move. I love it. I love the matchup. LSU's last 4 games, they're allowing 5.71 yards per carry, over 47% success rate per rush. This LSU defense looked to be, for a solid month and a half there, looked like they took a huge step above where they were last year, starting to look like they're stepping back down and starting to resemble last year's defense a bit. I'm on AJ, I'm on Oklahoma team total over 20.5. So I like Oklahoma here. I think they're able to move the ball, and I think this terrible Oklahoma offense is able to look like a decent offense here. Getting at a 20.5 against an LSU defense, I don't think is good. So I like Oklahoma to score points. The reason that I went with the team total over instead of Oklahoma +6 or money line, because I do think Oklahoma could potentially win this, is I'm a little scared of Saturday night in Death Valley. Oklahoma's defense is good. I trust their front seven against the run a bit more than I do against the pass, and I do think there's a path to Nussmeier just going off here. So I think this team total over protects me from a 41-24 LSU win. So rather than put my faith in Oklahoma to cover or win, I got Oklahoma team total over 20.5. This is a cool one. I think it's a good bet. I know. Maybe I'm jumping the gun, believing in this Oklahoma offense, but I think they're going to move the ball in this game. What do you guys think? Am I crazy for this one?
I like Oklahoma some here in this one. I mean, Kyle, you've probably heard me say this one from the Bet US College Football Show, but if you take these small underdogs on the road with lower totals, and this one fits, 48 or lower and a spread of 3 or more, if you just bet that blindly across the board, it's 56% against the spread going back to 2006. And this is pretty impressive because it's over 1,200 games. I mean, that kind of sample size really is very nice. If you just bet this blindly, the ROI is about 8%. I think Oklahoma's defense is really good. If you look at the numbers year to date, they're 9th in defensive success rate allowed. LSU's defense kind of fallen off a bit. And LSU, I mean, the chemistry is still not great at LSU. I have questions about them. I think Oklahoma can run again here. So I do kind of like your team total over, but I'm going to go Oklahoma +6 here.
Cool. I'm in agreement. Andy, I believe, didn't you say last night you were on the other side? Aren't you on LSU in this one?
No.
Oh,
No,
never mind. I'm thinking of a different game.
That was that game last week. I don't know how much of the game against Alabama was because of the fact that it was in Norman, but it could have been. But you nailed it. LSU, they can't stop a running quarterback. I had that. What was the game? The Alabama game. That was basically my only reason. Like, I didn't say much else other than Jalen Milroe might run for 180 yards. I think I said that. And then he ran for, I think, 200 or something like that. It was ridiculous. And you look at the game, LSU won last week. Diego Pavia still had 43 yards on 6 carries, which isn't a lot for him. I don't know why he didn't run it more. 7.2 yards per carry. That's the quarterback again. Like, I don't know what's wrong with them. I don't know why they haven't game planned better for this. Maybe they just don't have the talent, which is ridiculous at LSU. Like, every quarterback that can run will run on LSU. So Jackson Arnold's been doing it lately. I very well see him doing it again. I'll probably look in the bowl game. Hopefully they get matched up with Georgia Tech or somebody like that. I'll put everything I have on Georgia Tech if that was the matchup. Like, any running quarterback is going to dominate on LSU. So, yeah, I think they'll they might win it again. They might, if they beat Alabama and LSU, give Venables an extension for life, back-to-back to finish the season. That would be amazing. So, yeah, I'm on Oklahoma.
Wow. All three of us across the board. What could go wrong here? All right, let's move on to the next game. Is it Florida? Yeah, Florida State. I have 3 words written down for this game. Billy might Billy. I kind of think Billy's going to Billy in this one. Just when he captures everyone's hope back. And I appreciate Billy Napier. I had Florida plus the 10 against Ole Miss, or 10.5 or whatever it was last week. So appreciate the cover. Appreciate the great effort. It was a fun game to watch. Now that he's captured everyone's hope and everyone has become a believer in this Florida program, I think he might lose. I didn't bet it. But I'm not really very interested in this game other than as a spectator. If I was to bet it, I would take the plus 16.5, maybe some entertainment involved in that. But yeah, I wouldn't lay 16.5 with Florida based on a few decent games here against this Florida State defense. I know the Florida State, they're terrible, but they do have a pass rush and they can do a few things defensively. So it would be plus 16.5 for me, but I didn't bet this, full disclosure. Kyle?
I mean, I don't want to bet this game with somebody else's money, let alone my money. This is about the last game to bet here. Don't even know what to lean here. I think my number was 17, so I'm right about on market with my power ratings. And Napier's done pretty well lately. I mean, like you said, it it could show up at any point. We've seen Napier have these moments, but I just don't know. There's nothing here that makes me want to bet Florida State. At the same time, 16.5 with a lower total, pass.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? Andy, you're not laying the 16.5, are you?
Oh, with Florida? Dear God, no. I would be on Florida State here. Again,
Did you bet this? Are you on this?
I might bet this.
If you how about this? You bet it, I'll bet it.
All right, we did it with Oregon State yesterday, and it worked.
And it worked. Yeah, okay. I'm writing it down. I'll bet after the show. I'll bet this.
If somebody just said this is going to be like the Georgia game, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. It's not going to go 8 overtimes, but I wouldn't be surprised. It's like at the end of the game, you look at it, you're like, wow, maybe we should have been a little bit. Like, that's how I looked at the Georgia game. So I was like, anybody that took Georgia probably should have been thinking a little smarter. Like, it was pretty clear that game was always going to be close. Kind of how I feel about this. Now, I might fall on my face, but I think it's more likely Billy Napier falls on his here. That would be the most Billy Napier thing. He saved his job. He worked it. It worked out. He beat a couple really good SEC teams. It would be so funny to lose to the 2-win Florida State team. And one of those wins is against Charleston Southern, who, I mean, they look good. Hey, Florida State's coming off a really good game they played last week against Charleston Southern.
They look sharp.
40 for the first time this year. So it's coming off a big win. But yeah, I would lean Florida State. I'm gonna take Florida State.
Let's do it. And to those of you, I've promised several of the viewers that I wouldn't bet Florida State again this year. So those of you that I'm breaking your trust, I'm sorry. I'm doing it. One last dance. All right.
One last dance.
Do you know what pisses me off about this Washington-Oregon game? That's the game we're on right now. If this was 5 weeks ago, I'd be like, guys, give me the plus 18.5. In fact, sprinkle Washington money line. Like, I'd be all in. Unfortunately, this Washington offense just doesn't look the same. And so my pick now for this game would be under 51. All right. So the reason that I would have liked this matchup for Washington, let's say 4 or 5 weeks ago, Will Rogers gets the ball out quickly. He's in the top 25 in the country in time to throw, which tends to negate a good pass rush. I would have liked that matchup for the old Washington offense that was still functioning properly. Also, Washington was playing some great defense against the pass. They still kind of are. Yes, they've played some questionable competition, especially early in the season, but they have excellent numbers against the pass. But here's the problem. Like I said, Washington's offense has fallen off a cliff a bit here. In their last 5 games, under 5 yards per play, 19.2 points per game, 41% success rate. The offense just hasn't looked the same. And another thing, I mentioned how Will Rogers gets the ball out quickly. He's 22nd in the country in time to throw. Want to know who's right next to him with almost the exact same at 23rd? Braden Locke. Last game against Oregon, 12 of 28, 96 yards. So clearly the quick drop back, quick release wasn't really working against this Ducks defense. So it would be under, but I didn't bet it. 51, under 51 is what I wrote down. Is that where it's still at now? Let me check. Oregon. Yeah, you could still 50.5, 51. So that'd be my pick, but I couldn't get there. I kind of think because of the last 3 games that Oregon might unleash a little bit of wrath out on this one. Kyle, you agree with any of that?
You know, I don't know what to bet here. Probably under would be my lean as well. I do want to say a couple things about the chat here real quick. I've followed along on the chat. I think it was Young 40 said something about I haven't given out any plays. I don't bet every single game. I've given out quite a few plays. And then the other guy who says in the chat, Izzy gets busy. That's a cool name. But he said Kyle must not watch any games. I definitely, absolutely watch a lot of games. Trust me. Like my daughter's always like, "Oh my gosh, another college football game? Seriously?" Yeah, I watch a lot of games. I look at a lot of stats, and college football has been a great sport for me. So 48-25 so far this year is my record. So a great season thus far. I don't bet on everything. I'm not just going to bet across the board. But yeah, we've given out quite a few things that I like today, and we still have more to go. So Washington or Oregon. Oregon has played down to competition several times. Are they going to do it in this game? Washington's special teams just is painfully bad. I mean, here comes another missed field goal. It's just all year. It's like they set up for a field goal, like they're trusting it's going to go in. And at this point, I don't even know why. Under was my lean. I don't really want to bet a side here because I think Oregon could win by a decent amount, but they don't really have to. So I'll lean under.
Yeah, and as far as the chat, you can't win. I went 5-0 on Thanksgiving Thursday. I lost ECU at noon the next day, and the chat was like cursing me out. You cannot win. If you don't bet every single game, this guy doesn't bet. If you bet every single game, it's like this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Andy,
Somebody said we need better picks from you. I went undefeated yesterday, and I went undefeated. I did really well last week too. I don't know, whatever. It's fine. That doesn't affect me. I don't think about it. Washington, Oregon. So we had a game earlier in the year. I think it was the Washington USC game, right? Me and Scoop and Kyle and I were just completely opposed. I was on I think I was on Washington. You guys were on USC, and your reasoning was, well, Washington hadn't seen a good quarterback yet, and then they saw Miller Moss, and I was like, well, Miller Moss stinks, guys. They lost the game. I won that one. Miller Moss got benched the next week.
Let the record show that you didn't deserve it, though.
Okay, yeah, the record show that. Fine. Okay. But then they played Penn State, and Drew Aller did have a lot of success. He had an over 50% pass success rate. That's pretty much the only other quarterback this team's seen, Washington. Dylan Gabriel's better than Drew Aller. Dylan Gabriel's better than Miller Moss. Dylan Gabriel is miles better than anybody else Washington's faced. So I would lean Oregon. I think that they're going to win this one comfortably. There has been a little bit of talk where the team that wins the Big Ten, or in the Big Ten championship game, the team that loses probably in a better spot based on the bracket. That's actually fact. The team that loses the Big Ten championship is in fact in a better spot. But I think Oregon would take a lot of pride in going in there, and I think they'd be undefeated in Big Ten play, which would be really cool for them. So yeah, I think Oregon can cover this one and not backdoor this. I think Washington just fell off a cliff after that USC game. They haven't looked nearly the same. So even the USC game, they weren't that good. So yeah, I would take Oregon. Big rivalry here. These teams also hate each other a lot.
Cool. Next game is what's next? Am I wrong? Is the wrong team favored here? I'm on Kansas State. I bet this. My plan. So I bet it's plus 2.5. My plan was if I got positive feedback from you guys, I was going to sprinkle money line too. I think the wrong team's favored here if you factor in the type of teams these two are. I feel bad saying it because I've been very vocally a supporter of Matt Campbell. I think he's a great head coach. I'm a big Matt Campbell guy. That being said, this is a really tough matchup for Iowa State. Iowa State has consistently shown us all season you can run the ball on that defensive front. They have a good defense, but you can run the ball. You can't trust them to stop a physical run game, and that's all Kansas State does is run the ball. In fact, they've probably, if we're talking dynamic rushing attacks, I'd probably put them in the top 10 of most dynamic rushing attacks in the country. So I like the matchup for Kansas State offensively. Not to mention, Kansas State is not mathematically eliminated. Hold on, I wrote it down what they needed. Kansas State is not mathematically eliminated yet. They need Arizona State and BYU to lose, and Kansas State needs to win. So there still is a path for Kansas State to get in. Is that right, guys?
Yeah, no,
that's correct. Okay,
Arizona's gonna win. So
what? This is what I wanted to talk about. 1 second. Oh, these two games. All right, hold on. Kansas State, and check this out. So I just wanted to confirm the start times of the games. So the Arizona game's at 3:30. So tell me if Arizona's not about to pull the upset, we don't go and hammer Kansas State money line because that's what I was thinking. So Kansas State plus 2.5 is what I'm betting. I want to hear what these guys think. And if Arizona is live, and Arizona's got like a 4-point lead in the third quarter, maybe we go hit Kansas State money line again because that's the upset they need to get in. What are you guys' thoughts on anything I just said?
I like Kansas State here. I think Parker from the Bet US show, who knows the Big 12 really well, I know he bet Kansas State first half here. That's what I bet as well here. Iowa State's been good in the second half. Their first half margins have not been good. They make good adjustments at halftime. I do like Kansas State full game as well, but it might be kind of surprising based on their records. But Kansas State plus 0.97 yards per play in the Big 12. Iowa State just plus 0.13. So big yards per play margin advantage for Kansas State. Iowa State's rushing defense has been really bad. Kyle, you're completely right. 5.57 yards per carry in the Big 12, 120th in rushing grade at PFF. It's pretty shocking to see this. I know they've had quite a few injuries, but even that surprises me. This Farmageddon game, which that's a fantastic nickname for this rivalry game. Farmageddon last year, Iowa State went to Manhattan, won the game. put up 13.9 yards per play. I know Parker said that there was quite a bit of talk about the fact that it was that snow game. If you guys remember, they didn't have the right cleats, which I don't know how that happens. Like, how do you not have cleats for a snow game? Then you're just falling down all over the place. But, in this one, I think they go back to Iowa State. They have a good chance to win. Rocco Becht, 11 turnover-worthy plays in his last 5 games. He started the year playing really well, hasn't played well of late. Iowa State's up against a Kansas State team that's second in rushing play success rate allowed defensively. So Becht has to have a good game here. I trust Kansas State to be able to run more than I trust Becht to be able to throw. So I'll take Kansas State first half here, plus 1.5.
I'm in. I'll tell you guys on that. Kansas State first half. I like it. Andy, are we sweeping?
Yeah, and I hate it too because I really don't want to watch Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game. They're one of the most boring teams for me to watch, at least. But I do think the matchup's really good for them. I think they're gonna be able to run the ball, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. Iowa State's run game has pretty much disappeared the last 2 weeks. And Kansas State's has been kind of consistent all year. So, yeah, that's what it comes down to. I think Kansas State will be able to run the ball. I don't have much. That's just – I think both teams want to. I think Kansas State will be able to.
All right, I'm adding that too. Kansas State. I might either the first half, the money line. I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more because as of right now, Kansas State plus 2.5 is one of my smaller bets. I'm going to add to that. Let's do it. Virginia Tech. Just question marks for me here. Does anyone have updates? Kyron Drones, Schlee. I believe the entire quarterback room for Virginia Tech is listed as questionable for this one. And if that's the case, why would they be laying 7? Does that lead me to believe someone's playing? I have nothing for this game. Oh, I'm sorry. It's down to 5.5, 6 now. So I got nothing. Do you guys have anything for this one?
I think the difference between Drones and everybody else is too big. If you don't know who's playing here, I don't know how you can bet it. I like Drones. I think Drones is a good player. If he's healthy, I think they would have been able to score quite a few here. Too many unknowns. If there's this many unknowns, I'm passing.
It's crazy to think because let's rewind to week 4, and you told me that Drones was going to be out and Virginia Tech still laying 7 against Virginia after the way Virginia Tech looked to start the season and the way Virginia looked to start the season. Virginia has just fallen off a cliff, and then Virginia Tech got themselves together. It would have been crazy. Be like, oh, Virginia money line without a doubt. But yeah, Virginia's made it really difficult to have faith in them, even without Drones. I don't even know if I'm rushing to bet Virginia if both Drones and Schlee are out. I still don't even know if I want them.
Pete Thamel, who's the main guy for ESPN, he says redshirt freshman Pop Watson is expected to start. Schlee is still a game time decision, but it's expected to be Watson. They're also their star tailback Tootin is questionable for the game as well, which helps my bet. I have the under. Virginia games have been smashing unders. This team, it's a lot like Pitt. The market kind of struggled to readjust to them because they are a pretty high tempo team, and they were with Calandria, my guy Calandria. They were heaving it down the field a lot, and now it's just not successful. They're 13th in pace, 41st in pass frequency, and I mean, he's not had a good second half to the year. It's just his recent games. I mean, 34% success rate week 9 against North Carolina, 38% against Pitt, 18% against Notre Dame. Great game, Anthony. 22% against SMU. I mean, those are his recent game logs passing the ball. Where are these 49.5 points coming from? 48.5 points. Where are they coming? That's Virginia, the high tempo team that doesn't run the ball. They can't throw the ball. And then you have Virginia Tech, who pretty much only wants to run the ball. They're going to be down their best back. So, I don't know where the points are coming from. So, I've had the under. I bet it on Friday. I think it was 49.5 at the time, if I'm remembering correctly. I can't see the graphic. But, yeah, I think the under. 48.5, yeah, I'm on the under.
I like that, too. I like that. I think that's a good bet. Next up, Houston, BYU, and then we're into the Final Four. We saved the 4 biggest games for the end. That's how we do it. So this is the last one. I believe this is a 10:15, 10:30 Eastern time start. Look, I get it. Houston has proven me wrong a little bit, but I still am standing on the podium that what I said a few weeks back, Zion Chris does not make Houston a good offense. And they were winning games, they were covering, and I felt like that kind of gave the allure that the Houston was better with Zion Chris, and maybe they are slightly better, but this is still a really bad offense, and I'm not laying 13 with BYU either. I got nothing here. I'm just rambling. I got nothing. Either you guys?
BYU is my lean, but 13 points with that kind of low total is difficult to do. Maybe Houston team total under. I mean, do we think they're going to score very much? I think it's probably like 13 and a half. I haven't seen the line here, but if you could get 14 and a half, I would definitely lean toward an under. I think Houston offensively, I mean, it doesn't really matter who's been the quarterback this year. Houston's offense is definitely bad. They're 282 yards per game in Big 12 play. I think their defense is pretty good, but they've kind of worn down. They're getting put in bad spots pretty consistently. BYU, it is kind of a good spot for them situationally. They come back home, play the night game. I think you guys know Provo at night has been ridiculous on the opposition. So, I mean, even at the 13, BYU would be the side I'd bet if I was betting a side here.
Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, I would also lean BYU. Don't love it. I had the Houston Baylor over for some reason last week. That was a genius bet. The total was 50, and they scored 30 points total. So I don't know what this Houston team is. Their offense just isn't there. So I would lean BYU. Also, I think they just have to win to get in the Big 12 championship, if I'm not mistaken. So it should be easy for them.
Cool. So, all right, before we get into the Big Four games, I want to clear the board so they can see Kyle Hunter's name on the screen. Me and Andy watch the show in the office every single week. In fact, when the stuff I give you is usually stolen from him. No, I'm joking. But we do watch every week. They do a great job over there. All three of you guys, we're fans. We watch every single week. So want to tell everyone where they can find your stuff?
Yeah, I mean, you can find the Bet US College Football Show there on YouTube. We do that Tuesday and Wednesday at 1 o'clock. You can also find my website over at huntersportspicks.com. You can sign up for the free picks newsletter there. You can buy my plays if you want. You don't have to buy the plays. I'm definitely not a hard salesman. I just like to talk college football, and it's been a really good sport for me. Like I said, 48-25 this year. I had a couple of years in a row there where I was on a real heater, and then last year a bit of a down year, and then 48-25 this year. So good season. Also follow me on X or Twitter at Kyle Hunter Picks. Try to put quite a bit on there as well.
Yeah, and if you follow me on Twitter, I tagged him in the tweet. So if you follow me, you'll see it right there. So, all right, biggest four games of the day. Let's start with Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, what do we even say about this? The 20-point, the 19.5 point, the 20-point line completely warranted. I feel like the final score is maybe a false indication of Ohio State's offense looking great against Indiana. The defense won the game, maybe even the special teams. The reason I'm bringing that up is if I'm laying 20 points or 19.5 points, I better have complete faith in the Ohio State offense getting up and down the field consistently, and I'm not truly sure I could say that in this game. Michigan's run defense looked really good the last couple games. One of them was against Northwestern, I know. But Michigan held that same Indiana team to 246 total yards in the game on the road. In fact, you could have made an argument that Michigan had a real good shot to win the game. And then they followed it up with an absolute beatdown of Northwestern, holding them to 128 yards. So the Michigan defense, you could say, is coming into this one on a heater. I want to take the under, but there's just so many paths to Day's going to want to really put the hurt down because of the last three. Kind of similar to the Oregon game where it's like there may be someone looking to try and make a statement here. So I think based on the fact that I don't expect Michigan to move the ball at all unless they have some trick plays drawn up, that you got to go Ohio State. I didn't bet this one yet, but I'm going to right now. I'm going to bet. This is one where probably just doing some gambling because I want to watch the big game, but I think I want to lay. You guys have any thoughts on that?
Well, you probably know this, Kyle, but I'm a massive Ohio State fan, and Michigan and Ohio State. I'm not going to bet this game unless I absolutely love it because I already got plenty invested in wanting the Buckeyes to win. I think Ohio State did make a pretty good statement last week. The defensive line was great against Indiana's offensive line. They really have kind of underwhelmed for much of the year, and then they look good in that one. I think the Buckeyes' injuries on the offensive line and then the corners. Burke's not very good. We saw that in the Oregon game. Igbinosun has been bad all year. I think that will hold them back in the playoffs at some point, but I don't think this is the game where that really shows up because I don't see Michigan as the team to pick on corners. And even their defensive line's only been okay. I think if I was going to bet this game, I'd bet Michigan team total under 10.5. I think Buckeyes defense shows up in a game like this. Michigan hasn't shown me much on offense all year.
I remember you did. I remember the Michigan team total. I was thinking, what the heck did Kyle take in this game? I forgot because I watched your show. So yeah, Michigan team total under 10.5 is crazy, but I completely get it. Andy, what are your thoughts?
So the other day in the office, I said this is a look-ahead spot for Ohio State, and Kyle's head almost popped off. I was messing around a little bit, but there is definitely a little bit of that, not a look ahead, looking over your opponent, right? They know how much better they are than Michigan. They have everything in front of them. Michigan season's literally just this. Michigan doesn't care whatever bowl game they're going to. It's literally just this game that matters. So I think Michigan will keep it closer than people think. I don't think they're going to win. Don't think it's going to be one touchdown, but 10, 14, that seems like the range for me. I think it'll be low scoring. I think Michigan will get some things done on the ground. If you remember in the Indiana game, Indiana didn't run all over them at all. They did have a decent day, right? The sacks did take a lot off. I think it was like after sacks, I think somebody did it. It was like 4.4 yards per carry. That's moving the ball a little bit. If Michigan can just do that, which Michigan has a good stable of running backs, maybe they can get a little bit done and keep it close. So that's where I do think they'll be able to just run it enough to where they're not getting completely embarrassed. Look, I think Indiana, I know a lot of people are looking like, oh, look what Ohio State just did to Indiana. Well, I mean, I think that was just kind of everyone was talking about Indiana to them for months. They had heard about, oh, look at this Indiana team. They knew that they wanted to blow Indiana out. I know they want to blow Michigan State out, out too, but Michigan just has so much hate for this Ohio State team and everything like that. I just think it's a 2-touchdown game, and 19.5. That's you're asking 3 touchdowns, and I know talent-wise, we're probably that much better than them, but in a rivalry like this, I don't think that's happening.
All right, let's go to the next game, and this is going to be an interesting one because me and Kyle Hunter are on opposite sides here. I watched your show. Your whole unit, you guys are all on South Carolina here. I don't know what Andy's about to say, but I'm pretty sure he's about to say South Carolina also. Am I right, Andy?
No, you're wrong.
You're with me?
Yeah, I'm with you, Clemson.
Okay. So let's let Kyle go first. Because he's on South Carolina, and by the way, all three of them we're going head to head here.
I was going to say, all right, leave the guest by himself here. That's fine, guys. I'm going to take South Carolina. I like South Carolina. They've played really well in these big games. Clemson hasn't shown me anything in the bigger games. They're 51st strength of schedule in Sagarin's rankings. South Carolina's 5th. And yards per play, South Carolina is a little bit better, even though they played that much difficult of a schedule. Okay, so Clemson, what's their best win so far this year? I'm trying to figure out. I mean, Virginia Tech didn't have Drones. Pitt didn't have Holstein. FSU, you know about FSU at this point. The win against either Virginia or North Carolina State, probably their best win. I think Sweeney's still a good coach, but he hasn't really adapted to the NIL culture very well. And South Carolina's 8-3 against the spread. The odds makers have had a hard time catching up with them. I think their defensive line will be in the backfield quite a bit here against the Clemson offensive line that's pretty banged up. The one weakness of South Carolina is they do give up quite a few negative plays on offense. Sellers holds the ball for a while, can make some big plays. Sometimes they get behind the chains, but Clemson is 116th in explosiveness allowed. South Carolina is 26th in explosiveness, so I think they get some big plays here. I'm going with South Carolina. I think they'll win outright.
All right. So I'm on Clemson, and the first 80% of what he just said is pretty hard to debate. What is Clemson's best win is a tough one to retort. They don't really have a great win. South Carolina's played a much, much, much stronger schedule. Can't debate any of that. I personally am just not still, despite the last 4 games, I'm still not a buyer on the South Carolina offense. And I know that's kind of crazy to say because Sellers has been putting up some explosive passing numbers. South Carolina has looked pretty solid offensively. I still just don't trust this offensive line. Even during this hot streak for South Carolina, the last 4 games, even during this little offensive hot streak they're on, Sellers has still been pressured on almost just under 38% of his dropbacks, which is a lot. And he's got a 7.7% turnover-worthy play rate when pressured during that span, despite only throwing 1 interception. He's playing with fire, and I think on the road against this Clemson defense, I think it's going to be set ablaze. I think Sellers is going to throw 2 picks in this one. Look, on the other side of the ball, do I trust Clemson's offense to just consistently move the ball up and down the field? on the South Carolina defense. Of course not. South Carolina's got probably the best pass rush in the country, certainly a top 5, top 10 defense in the country. It's not that I trust Clemson's offense to go on a tirade here. In my opinion, I think Clemson wins this one because they make less mistakes. In fact, I think South Carolina loses this game more than Clemson wins it. So I got Clemson -2.5, 26-20 final score. Let's do it, Clemson. Andy, are you with me?
I'm with you. So I will give South Carolina credit. They've played well lately, but I think they're a little bit of a creature of their schedule. Okay. Early in the season, their schedule was Kentucky. They had Old Dominion, Kentucky. Then they had a stretch where they played LSU, they lost, Akron, Ole Miss lost, Alabama lost. Those are the 3 best teams they've played. The quarterbacks for those teams are the ones I want to focus on the most. Nussmeier, Milroe, Dart. All of them diced them up. More so Dart and Milroe. Diced them up. I would put Klubnik more with those guys than the quarterbacks that they've played. Now, he's not as good as them, but he's pretty good. All those other guys threw on him. I think Klubnik will be able to throw on him. But now, in recent weeks, they've been branded as this great SEC team that should have a shot at the playoff. Why? They beat Texas A&M. We don't know how good Texas A&M actually is. They just lost to Auburn. Vanderbilt, cool. Missouri, Wofford, Oklahoma. Who have they actually beaten? A&M's their best win. How good do we actually know A&M is? We don't know that they're actually that good. They've played a pretty easy schedule. We don't know how good they are. They lost the big games that they played too. So I think that South Carolina is getting a lot of love for not doing much. And I know Clemson, you can say the same thing. But Clemson, we have past proof that this team's pretty good. Dabo Swinney coaches in big games. He's really good in big games. Just before 3 weeks ago, Shane Beamer had never beaten a top 10 team, never beaten a top 15 team, I don't think. He did that once now, but Dabo Swinney's done it a ton in his career. So just from coaching advantage, I think that's the case. I also know they have the talent advantage. That's obvious. It's Clemson. So that coupled with Klubnik, I think we'll be able to throw the ball in this one. I think all of that, I just think Clemson can win this one. Not ugly. I don't think it'll be ugly. I think it'll be a good game, but I'm really confident in Clemson today.
As far as the viewers, we have 232 votes in. 55% of you say South Carolina, 36% of you say Clemson. So the viewers more so leaning with Kyle Hunter over us, Sandy. All right, let's move on to 2 games left. And I bet this game, Andy's on the same side. From the way he talked about it, he sounded more confident in it than I did. Andy, you took the 7.5.
Yes, I did.
Me too.
So I think the offense has looked a lot better with Jaden Mayava. I just want to say that. The offense has looked far better. The benching him. I know last week was a little bit of a bump in the road, but that was a rivalry game. This one is too, but that one was a rivalry game, boring game, terrible. But it's looked better in the first 2 games specifically. This is more spot for me. I know Notre Dame is a very good team. They've pretty much beaten everybody they've played besides the Northern Illinois game. And really, I don't take too much. A lot of people take stock in that one. That was a weird one. That was week 2, right? I think, and Ethan Hampton, I think, was in that game and had a pretty good game. I think he threw for like 9 yards per attempt. Like, whatever. That was a long time ago. Now, Notre Dame just has to win this game. They just have to win it, and they're in the playoff, and they're probably the number 5. But I think USC, Lincoln Riley, at this point, I think he's coaching for his job. I think if they lose today, I think it'll be very hard for him to stay. I think couple that with the fact their offenses look better. They probably should have won last week. All of that. Also, the run defense and the defense overall this year has been pretty good for USC. It's not the pushover that it was last year, and all Notre Dame wants to do is run. Notre Dame's been blowing teams out. I think they're due for a close game. So, yeah, I'm very confident in that USC at home can at least keep it within a touchdown. If it would lower than a touchdown, I'd be a little scared. I honestly think Notre Dame's going to win by 7. That's kind of the way that I've branded this game. But at 7.5, I think USC is a great pick here.
So Kyle Hunter on the Bet US show said something that I've been saying. Why isn't USC running the ball? The numbers are efficient. Why aren't they running the ball? When you said it, I was like, yup, to the screen. But that, you know what? I don't know if you remember what Parker Fleming responded to you with. It was actually made some sense. He said the numbers look that efficient because they're not running the ball that much. And if they tried running the ball, the numbers wouldn't look that as efficient. And I thought that was a decent retort. But anyway, you could put up USC plus 7.5 for me. And I did bet this. Not nearly as confident. I like the Clemson bet a bit better than this one. What are we throwing Notre Dame a parade for, man? Like, Army, Virginia has been terrible for a month and a half. Florida State, Navy, Georgia Tech without Haynes King, Stanford without Daniels. I mean, the last time Notre Dame played a good team, or a team that I would consider a good team, the month was September. And honestly, I wouldn't even say they outplayed Louisville. And I don't even like Louisville. I don't think Notre Dame is very good. I think the final scores of these games look very good. I think they've had a very fortunate schedule. I think this number should be below 7, 6.5. So I don't really like USC, though. Andy was like, oh, this offense looks better with my offense. No, I wouldn't go that far. I do think USC will be able to make some plays on the ground here. But yeah, to me, the question is, are you buying into the USC defensive front? Because we know this isn't a defensive program, but if you actually look at it, I mean, they've done a somewhat decent job against the run since that Michigan game where they just got bulldozed in the Big House. If you look at their game logs of the rushing numbers, their defense hasn't been that bad. So do you trust this defensive front to just hold it together against Notre Dame? And I honestly think I do a little bit. So like I said, not one of my favorite bets of the day, but I'm on USC. Kyle Hunter, I'm pretty sure, would you have an under in this game? I forget what you said for this one.
Yeah, I didn't bet anything in this game. I'll have the chat too. Would you guys hurry up? It's about noon games.
Oh, yeah.
Your chat's hopping over here. I like it, guys. I think if you like USC, you should go ahead and bet it now because it looks like this number is coming down. I think this is going to be 7 or even maybe some 6.5 soon based on what I'm seeing. So 7.5 you see out there, you go ahead and grab it now. I mean, USC has been winning in every single game in the fourth quarter, and yet they've lost as many games as they have. I mean, it's one of the wildest things. I still think USC should run the ball in this game, Kyle, because, even if it's true that USC, if they ran the ball more often, would not be quite as efficient as they've been so far, Notre Dame's a lot better against the pass. Notre Dame, really good safeties, great cornerbacks, but they're 67th in rushing play success rate allowed. I think you can run on Notre Dame. I do agree with what you said about Notre Dame, too. They haven't really beaten anybody great. They didn't look good against Louisville. Louisville kind of won the stats in that game. They've come up against, the service academy teams, even when they were kind of banged up. And, I don't know. I think 7.5 is a bit steep, but 7, I don't know that I would lean USC. So if you like the 7.5, you better grab it.
Wow. We're a USC sweep. I was not expecting that. The final game, I think I'm down to, I didn't bet this yet, but I think I'm down to, it's like the biggest game of the day. I might just throw a few dollars, gamble, have fun in the Discord, joking around about it. Look, I don't know if I'm being a little biased here. I am not a buyer in the Texas A&M offense with Marcel Reed at quarterback. I'm just, that offense doesn't scare me with Marcel Reed at quarterback. And if you look at how that season has progressed for Texas A&M, when have we seen Marcel Reed have success at the quarterback position? The Florida game, Florida didn't even know Marcel Reed was going to be playing quarterback. None of us did. I mean, it was announced late. Marcel Reed's being quarterback. It was his first action. No one knew what to expect. They didn't have film on him. I mean, they were just, we'll call it a case of getting completely caught off guard in that game. After that, they looked bad in the Bowling Green game. They looked bad in the Arkansas game. Then they went back to Wegman after that, and the offense looked pretty solid for a couple games. Then Marcel Reed comes in the second half against LSU, looks great. Another case of caught off guard. Another unexpected curveball Marcel Reed appearance where it looks successful. Straight up, I don't think the Texas A&M offense is very good when a defense knows Marcel Reed is going to be the starter. If you game plan all week for Marcel Reed at quarterback, I don't think it's difficult to stop. I don't think it's very good. So I think Texas is going to shut Texas A&M offense down. I would lean towards laying the points with the Longhorns, and I might do it. The reason I am a little hesitant to pull the trigger, I'm not really sure what I think of the Texas offense either. I've been pretty skeptical of that offense for most of the year. Quinn Ewers is questionable, right, guys?
I just got an update, actually. He's unlikely to be 100%, but he's starting.
That might be like the worst case scenario. I either want it in or out, man. Like, don't give me this unlikely to be 100% shit. So I don't have a ton of faith in Texas offensively here. Texas A&M defense is good. and we're laying a big number on the road. I get it, but I think there's a path to Texas A&M failing to reach 14 points in this game. So I would go Texas or under would be my 2 picks for this game. Like I said, I haven't bet it. I'm going to sit back and listen to these guys, see if we can come up with something, but I'm leaning towards Texas. Kyle?
I'm leaning under here in this game. I think 49 has gotten up there. This one's gone up a little bit. And Texas on offense is kind of a question mark too. I mean, you got Ewers back there who's banged up. I think it would be I think Manning will probably play at some point in this game. It would kind of surprise me if he doesn't. As far as Texas, though, they haven't really played that well. They had 4.3 yards per play against Arkansas a couple weeks ago. They have allowed 66 tackles for a loss. So the offensive line has definitely played a lot worse here of late. Elko is definitely a good defensive guy. We know that. He's good at scheming up a defense. I think he probably has a good game plan ready. The Texas defense is really good. We know the Texas defense is very good. They're first in explosiveness allowed, so they do not give up big plays. You're going to have to move the ball down the field very slowly against them. Do we think that Texas A&M can consistently move the ball down the field little by little? I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty torn on a side on this one, but I think that these two defenses are good enough that 49 is a bit too high. I'm going to go under.
So you know what? If it kind of circles, because I also said I was leaning under, kind of circles both of my picks. What if I took Texas A&M team total over? Quick math, that's going to be at what, 22.5? So it might be something I can get into. 21.5, 22.5. Maybe I'll bet a Texas A&M team total under. Andy, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm all over Texas here. I know
over Texas.
Quinn Ewers being hurt does hinder my confidence a little bit, because I don't think Arch has been very good at all in the games that he came in. Specifically,
I thought he looked good
against the good.
Are you just being a hater?
When have I ever been a hater? Specifically, you look at the one like really good team he came in and faced. Right, it was Georgia, and I mean I know they threw him into a tough situation. Don't get me wrong, but I mean that would be like throwing him in at Kyle Field, right? That'd be a pretty tough situation. He looked awful in the one bad situation they put him in. I don't think this would be a much better one, which is why I think they're so heavily needing Quinn Ewers to start here, because like he has a high ankle sprain. Usually you don't play the week after you get a high ankle sprain. Like that's telling to me that they don't trust Arch in this situation. It's fine. He's still a freshman. But if Quinn Ewers plays and he looks good, I don't see a way A&M wins the game. But especially like I think Texas would win it by 2 touchdowns, honestly. You said it perfectly, Kyle. This dude has had so many great games, but all of them, or a couple of great games, all by the element of surprise. Like, there's no surprise with Marcel Reed anymore. Like, he had the game against South Carolina where they were able to game plan, they were able to be ready, and he had no shot in that game. And that was very telling to me that, and Auburn, the same thing, really. Auburn was able to game plan for him, and they looked good, right? Like, teams that are able to get ready for Marcel Reed it's not a good thing for him. And he's now facing probably the best defense he's faced this year in a similar pass rush than what South Carolina has. They're really good. They can get to the quarterback. So, like, hell, I don't really think that this is a 5.5 point line if Quinn Ewers is 100% healthy. Like, I think it would have. These teams are more like 10 points apart to me. If you would have told me A&M was going to have this same record, I would have said they were going to have an amazing year. They were going to feel great about themselves. I see the opposite. They've had, in my opinion, a much better year than we expected them to have, and they all seem miserable. Their coach seems miserable. All their fans seem miserable. Like, I don't know, maybe if beating Texas and getting to the SEC championship is like the only thing they were expecting this year, I thought they had no shot at it, to be honest. I didn't think they were ever going to be in the mix in the SEC, and they've been great, but that's just my opinion. I think Texas is going to beat them pretty comfortably. Texas has done that to most of the teams they've played. Obviously, they had the game against Georgia. That was the one bump in the road. But, yeah, I like Texas a lot. Winner goes to the SEC championship game. Personally, as a Georgia fan, I'd rather see Texas, too, because they already beat them. And also, what would Marcel Reed do to a Georgia defense? I don't even want to find out.
Nothing. But he would do this.
Well, to be honest, you say that, but the one thing the guy's good at is running the ball, and it seems as everybody is. So, but yeah, I just think this is a mismatch, and I think Texas is much better. I wish the game was in Austin as well, but yeah, it's a tough environment, but I think he'll be able to handle it as long as Quinn Ewers is healthy. If we see Quinn Ewers come out on the first drive and he can't move and he looks awful and he just doesn't look competitive, then I really don't know how this game could go. But
they might make a quarterback change if that's the case.
It wouldn't help.
And yeah, we saw Bowling Green come into Kyle Field prepared for Marcel Reed, and they couldn't really move the ball. And Bowling Green, I don't even know if I'd call Bowling Green a top 4 MAC defense. I think I'd probably have them at like number 3 or 4 defensively in the MAC. So, all right, let's do, Andy, that's the last game, by the way. You have an underdog pick 'em, Andy?
Yeah, I do.
All right. I'll get the community parlay rolling too. And we'll be out of here. Let's go enjoy the day. 1 second. All right. Oh, so Kyle, at the end of the show, we do polls of all the games we talked about, and they pick, and the community votes, and they do a 4-leg parlay based on their votes. That's what we've been doing. It usually never hits. It's more of a for fun thing than anything else. All right.
Yeah, so today's underdog. I said it in the first one. I think Nico's going to have a good game. I think he's going to be able to settle in, not going to be under pressure much. So I think he'll be able to have a good game. So higher than 216.5 passing yards. It's on the road in Vanderbilt, but I think it's doable. I think you guys talked about it. The score should be very high in the Baylor-Kansas game. Sawyer Robertson's been able to throw a lot lately. And everyone's kind of been able to throw in Kansas this year. The defense isn't exactly the strongest. So higher than 226.5. I thought that was a low number for him, especially in this game. So maybe I'm missing something there, but yeah, higher than 226.5. And I alluded to it. Khalil Mullings, higher than 49.5 rushing yards against Ohio State. I think they're going to try to run the ball and control the game early, and he'll get a lot of rushing yards early in the game. Indiana was able to run a little bit on Ohio State. I think Michigan will as well. And then the one lower, I try to be negative at least once. Marcel Reed, lower than 175.5 passing yards. I think he's going to be under pressure. I don't think they're going to be he's going to have many opportunities to throw the ball deep in this game. This is a good Texas defense. Even Georgia, the game they lost, they really weren't able to do much through the air with Carson Beck. Nobody's really been able to figure out the Texas defense. So yeah, I don't think he'll be able to throw for many yards.
Cool. So the first leg of the community parlay was Texas Tech money line, by the way. Second leg coming out. Cast your votes. And yeah, that show Bet US. What's the go ahead. Oh, the free leg. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Proppy.
Yeah. So if you're not an underdog customer yet and you would like to become one, and you would like a free leg, well, you can use Luka Doncic over a half total point. Also, it's feast week on Underdog, and they got profit boost, discount tokens, gimme picks, and more. I actually saw they were giving away like a PS5 and some shit. They had like a flat screen they were giving away and some stuff. So I would go ahead and check out their social media pages, see what they're doing with that in terms of the signups and stuff as well. If you would like to sign up for Underdog, you can sign up in one of those yellow states. The promo code is BET, B-E-T. It's 3 E-E letters.
It's 3 E-E letters. All right, 1 second. We get the next poll going. So yeah, we that Bet US show. It's the name of the channel is actually College Football Picks and Predictions, right? Is it the actual one? Yeah, and we weren't just saying that to like be nice. We actually genuinely watch. If you're looking for weekly content to consume, they go through the games and they have the graphics on the screen so you could tell what game they're talking about, which I feel like is the biggest problem in the industry. People will put the camera on and just talk for 60 minutes. They have it so you can pick it up halfway and be like, oh, shit, okay, they're talking about this game. So they make it easy to follow. They do a good job. Like I said, we watch it every single week. We watch both episodes. So.
Somebody asked about Army UTSA. Personally, when I looked at it, my automatic assumption was Army will bounce back comfortably. I don't know how the quarterback's health is, so that's a worry to me. But if I was betting it, I know everybody's betting UTSA. It opened at 7.5 and it's now 6. I would lean Army, but not exactly confident in it.
So the 3 legs so far: Texas Tech money line, Kansas money line, LSU money line, and let's do the final leg, and then let's go enjoy some college football. We got, let's see, Michigan, Ohio State. Oh, we can't put that one in there. That's huge. South Carolina, Clemson. They like South Carolina in that one.
Can't put in it.
Notre Dame, USC. Who did they like? They like Notre Dame probably. Texas A&M. They like Texas. And then let's throw one that we skipped in there. Arizona State, Arizona. They liked Arizona State.
Hawaii, New Mexico. Sounds like fun.
All right, cast your votes. Last leg of the community parlay. Thanks, everyone, for watching. All right, votes are rolling in. And the final leg of the community parlay is, let's let it get to 50 votes real quick. 42, 44, 46. Go on. One more vote. Any second now? All right, I'm clicking end poll. And the winner of the poll is Texas money line. So it was Texas. So the community parlay is Texas Tech money line, Kansas money line, LSU money line, Texas money line. Anyone have the odds on that, AJ?
See, can I tail it this week?
Plus 599. Community getting a little aggressive. So Texas Tech money line, Kansas money line, LSU money line, and Texas money line plus 599. Kyle, thanks for joining. Make sure you guys give him a follow. Appreciate him taking the time out. Everyone enjoy their Saturday. Bet responsibly.